name's Angharad Jenkins and I'm a fiddle player with Callan, DNA and Pendevig, and in this video I'd like to tell you how I tour with a baby. Now, I haven't had masses of experience in this field. I've got an 11-month-old now, and we were just planning on heading out on a 23-date tour in April with Callan. But that obviously got cancelled because of the pandemic. I was concerned about a lot of issues, in particular the weaning on the road. It's hard enough as a musician to eat healthily on the road, let alone with a baby who doesn't really know how to eat food yet. But sadly, I never had that opportunity. But I have had experience of touring with a baby as a newborn. And what I would say is it would not have been possible to tour with a newborn baby if it wasn't for the support of my family. In fact, I would say it's absolutely crucial that I had that support of my partner, my mother and my in-laws, or I probably would have had to say goodbye to that element of my career for quite some time. So I'm really, really lucky that I've got that support so that I can head out on the road with my baby. Because I was breastfeeding, lots of people used to say, can't you just leave her at home for a night? But I wasn't able to because it's incredibly intense, that relationship at the start if you're breastfeeding. In fact, for the first 6 months of her life, I'd say we were joint at the nip. I could not leave her for more than an hour really at a time. So leaving her at home just was not an option. So you have to be super organised when you're travelling with a baby, as anyone knows. So normally I would travel very light, just my fiddle, a DPA mic, my in-ear monitors and some stage clothes and possibly an overnight bag. When you're travelling with a baby though, you have to have all of the baby stuff, which is 10 times more than you will ever need. You need the pram, you need the car seat, you need a cot, you need a mattress because you don't know what kind of bedding there'll be at the accommodation. I also used to travel with her jumperoo to keep her entertained. I would travel with a pile of mats to put out on the floor because you don't want your baby crawling on a grotty green room floor, a bag of toys. Did I say nappy bag? I'm losing track. Loads of nappies, clean clothes. Luckily though, because I was breastfeeding, her food was all provided. So I would just not bother with bottles and stuff like that. So I count myself very lucky in that sense. So, but when you're planning ahead and sort of planning your journeys, one thing that sort of threw me a bit at the beginning was when I read the current travel guidelines with a newborn. They say now that you shouldn't travel for more than 30 minutes at a time before stopping because it can restrict the baby's breathing. So we would have to stop every half an hour on some of our journeys to festivals, which, you know, a 3 or 4 hour journey suddenly is doubled in length because you have to do that. And you'd also have to be really clear and know exactly where you're staying, with who, what the food arrangements are, because when you're providing for another person, you've got to really make sure that you're as healthy and as rested and as sort of full of nutrients as possible because you're not just looking after yourself. Another really important thing that I would say is choose the appropriate stage clothes. I found this out the difficult way when I was doing a string of Christmas gigs. And I had a lovely sparkly festive dress on, high neck, which had a zip down the back. But I would always need support in doing the zip up. So in the interval when I needed to have quick access to the milk bar, Um, I basically had to strip completely off in the room that we had. My in-laws were in there. My poor father-in-law didn't know where to look. They got sent out in the end, and I had a quick sort of quarter of an hour to strip off, feed my baby, get changed again, and get back on stage. Um, After that gig, I adapted my clothes and went for a looser fitting top with easy access. So, but that gig as well, I remember, it was so difficult. The sort of emotional impact of taking your baby on the road. We all need to think about that because she was absolutely screaming, crying, hence why I was sort of faffing around and wanting to get her fed as soon as possible. But it wasn't enough, and when the second half of the concert was starting, I passed her back to my in-laws and had to leave her, hearing her screaming in the distance as I head back on stage. And then I had to kind of try and forget about that in order to perform. And there's something ingrained in us as mothers, our babies cry, and it was horrible. I to just sort of try and ignore that as I performed. It was just horrible. So there's a lot of guilt sort of tied up with taking your baby on the road, and you just got to kind of get over it and play, really. I did find that really hard though, and I think if I ever had another baby, I'd probably think twice about traveling for the first 6 months. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's needed. You just need to look after yourself and your baby. The last thing I'd say is I used to try very hard to keep my childminders happy, whoever they were and whatever they needed to be kept happy. I would try my best. So they would always be offered a room to themselves backstage so they could set up camp with my baby and come and go as they pleased. My partner was always happy if I could give him a pint of cider and if he could have Wi-Fi access to watch the rugby or the boxing, then that was always a good move. And basically, at the end of the day, if you've got a happy childminder, you've got a happy baby, happy mum, happy musician, and then happy audience. Good show. And that's how I did it.